Hello and welcome to this month's book to film adaptation. And it is The Sword and the Stone by T.H. White. It was published in 1938 and then it was adapted to screen in 1963. Now, as usual, I will be looking at three things: how good is the film, how good is the book, and how well does the book take from the film. Nope, other way around. Film take from the book. Obviously there are spoilers, so if you've not seen the film or read the book and you want to, I'd recommend you do that before you watch this episode. So, the film. Now, I thoroughly love this film. It's early Disney and it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's aged so well. The little in-jokes from Merlin about the 20th century is brilliant. You know, the Wizardjewel with Mad Madam Mim. Love it. The songs as well. You know, it's very quotable for me as well. It's extremely fun to look. I think as an older one of the Disney films, not a lot of love is given to it, but I really love this film. I honestly do. Archimedes the owl, you know, everything about it. It's such a refreshing take on like young Arthur, and the fact that, you know, he starts off as a squire to Kay, and then, you know, Merlin comes along to teach him these education, and then he decides that actually he wants to still be a squire, and the whole thing is just fantastic. And honestly, I love that it keeps teaching him brains over brawn, and then when Arthur chooses brawn over brains, Merlin has a little hissy fit and goes off to Bermuda and leaves him in the care of a talking owl, Archimedes. But it's honestly, it's such a great film. And it's actually because of the film and how much I enjoyed the film that I decided to buy the book and do the book to film adaptation review. So the film itself, I would definitely give a 9 out of 10. It's so enjoyable, and it's one that I can just go back to. And if you're feeling a bit shit, feeling a bit down, you just want to put something on the background, Sword and the Stone is just a great film. Honestly, go out and watch it if you haven't already. So, the book. Now, apparently this is the first book in a series. I'm very unlikely to read the rest of the series because the writing was okay, but I just found it at times a little bit draggy. I mean, the story was rather lovely to read. You had all the little magical bits and bobs going through, and you had, like, you know, animals that wouldn't necessarily be alive. They were talking about unicorns, dragons, and I love that they interwove a lot of like folklore into the book, and as well Robin Hood, who's called Robin Wood in the book. They bring him into this as well, so the folklore is really good, and I really enjoyed that part of it. As I mentioned earlier, I didn't even know that The Sword and Stone was a book, and so when I found it, I was like, oh, I'll give it a go. And I mean, the cover, I love the cover. And so, you know, I thought I'd give it a go, and it was good. The adventures are really good. The characters are good. You see them grow. It focuses a lot more on, you know, learnings, and he turns into a lot more animals in the book than he does in the film. He turns to like a badger, a snake, you know, a bird twice, a fish, and all of that. And it's a good read. It's just not a great read. It's good at like a romp kind of book. You know, if you're just looking for something to read on holiday or to read on a day off and you're not too bothered about it, this is a kind of good book. Maybe, I mean, I might even give this to my little sister if I'm unlikely to read it again, but it's an enjoyable book. It's just not fantastic. So it gets a 7 out of 10 from me. I mean, read it yourself and see what you think. It might be because I love the film so much that when I read the book, I was kind of a little bit like, well, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. So that could be why I probably didn't enjoy the book as much as I thought I might have done. So anyway, the plot. The plot is vastly different, but it's also very similar as well. So the book starts with us meeting Sir Ector and his son Kay and his ward Arthur, whom he treats equally in the book, not in the film. And it sees the dynamic between the three, and Sir Ector being like, I need a new tutor for Arthur and Kay. The film starts with the lore of the Sword and the Stone to choose the next King of England, and then it goes into the story. In both, you got Arthur and Kay go hunting. In the book, Kay loses a hawk that Arthur goes after into the woods. In the film, it's an arrow. Now, in the book, Arthur spends some time in the forest where he meets all manner of things and King Pellinore, who we keep coming across. Whereas, you know, and he spends the night there basically, and then he comes across Merlin's cottage. In the film, he falls into Merlin's house through the roof, because Merlin expected him to fall through because he can see everything basically. Now, in both, after meeting Merlin and Archimedes the owl, he heads back to Sir Ector's castle, as Merlin has now decided to become Arthur's tutor. In the book, it's Arthur and Kay's tutor, but in the film, it's just Arthur's tutor. Now, in both, Merlin and Arthur become fish. Now, in the film, they have a swim around, they almost get eaten, then they sort of come out, and it's like, sink or swim. That's what makes the world go round. Sorry, I can't, honestly, I love that film. But in the book, they meet other fish, they have a conversation, Arthur learns a bit more about the world, under the water. That's one thing I would say is in the book, whenever he gets turned into something, he can then communicate with them and he talks to them. In the film, he gets turned into them, but he doesn't communicate with them. He's just still a human, whereas they're animals, so he doesn't understand what they're saying. Now, in the book, Kay and Arthur seem brotherly as they grow up together, even if they're not related. Where in the film, Arthur is Kay's squire and general dog's body to Sir Ector, so he's treated a little less than sort of like a son. He's just kind of treated as a ward, basically. Now, in the book, Kay and Arthur are captured by Madam Mim, who plans to eat them. Yes, I know, that does not happen in the film. Merlin comes to the rescue and ends up killing Madam Mim in a wizard duel. In the film, at this point, Arthur is given washing up duty because he turned into a fish. When he tries to tell Sir Ector about it, Sir Ector's like, demerits, go do some washing up. Now, in the book, Arthur and Merlin go off again and see King Pellinore again, who is now going to be involved in a joust and then followed by a sword fight with another knight. In the film, Merlin and Arthur sneak off, leaving the dishes to magically wash themselves, oh I wish, and turn into squirrels. Now, while they're squirrels, a female falls in love with Arthur and he's almost eaten by a wolf. Now, in the book, Merlin transforms Arthur into a Merlin bird and puts him among the other birds that you use for hunting, where he mingles with them and learns a bit more about them. Now, in the book, Kay is upset about not being turned into films. In the film, he doesn't care. So he's upset in the book because he's not turned into things and he wants to go on an adventure. So, in the book, Kay and Arthur then go on a little adventure. Now, in the film, Arthur comes back from being a squirrel, and due to the dishes washing themselves, he gets pulled from being Kay's squire, and basically told that he needs to clean up the mess that he's created because he didn't do what he was supposed to in the first place. Now, in the book, they go on an adventure and they meet Robin Hood. And in the film, after being told he isn't a squire, Merlin feels bad about Arthur's, misfortune and takes to schooling Arthur full time. So, in the book, Arthur and Kay go along with Robin to decimate a tribe of cannibals that have been, disastrous in the woods. And in the film at this point, Merlin gets exasperated trying to teach Arthur because he's teaching things like the world is round and planes can fly and everything like that. And Arthur's obviously like, what are you going on about? So he gives up and Archimedes takes over and turns Arthur into a sparrow. Now, in the book, they return adventurous and, much loved by everybody. And it's a great quest that they went on. But in the film, on his adventure as a sparrow, Arthur is captured by Madam Mim. Love the wizard duel. Resulting in a wizard battle and Merlin becoming a disease which makes Madam Mim ill. Doesn't kill her, makes her ill. Now, in the book, Arthur gets turned into a snake and makes friends with another snake who then teaches Arthur all about the history and dreaming and everything like that. In the film, Kay is knighted and Arthur becomes his squire again, which angers Merlin as he thought he would amount to more. So this is when Merlin decides to do one to Bermuda. Now, in the book, Sir Ector hosts travelling barons and knights when they go boar hunting with Robin. In the book as well, Arthur is then turned into a bird again and goes out with Archimedes, where they end up meeting Athene, and she gives him the dream of stones and trees and other such stuff like that. Now, in the film, Sir Ector and co have gone to London to the tournament, and this will decide who will be the next king. They're hoping that it's Kay. Obviously, we know it's not going to be, considering the guy's name is Arthur. Now, in the book at this point, Merlin takes Arthur to see a giant, but they themselves are invisible because the giant is vicious. They see the dungeons where King Pellinore, hello again King Pellinore, has been captured. They trick the giant gets attacked by this beast that King Pellinore has been hunting for ages, the questing beast, and they all escape. Now, in the book, quite a few years pass by, and Arthur grows up quite a bit. I think it's about 6 years, 7 years go by. But then Arthur becomes Kay's squire as Kay is knighted. But just before this happens, Merlin turns Arthur into a badger as the last of his education. Now, in the book, Merlin isn't as bothered that Arthur becomes the squire of Kay because Merlin got knowledge. Merlin knows what's going to happen. So, in the book, King Uther dies, and with his passing comes the Sword and the Stone that arrives out of nowhere to choose the next King of England. So they then hold a tournament, and then that person will get the chance to pull the sword from the stone. So everyone goes apart from Merlin, because Merlin then leaves on an amicable relationship with Arthur and says, my time here is done. We may meet again. Who knows? Merlin knows. But in both, Arthur forgets Kay's sword and so goes on a hunt to find one. He ends up pulling the sword from the stone in the churchyard and then becomes the next King of England. And in both, it's disbelieved that he actually does pull the sword from the stone. So they go, pull it again, boy. And he proves it many times over. And then they both end with Merlin coming back to help Arthur become the next King of England. So, as I said, they are completely different in the respects of like the animals that they get changed into, the fact that Kay seems more like a brother to Arthur, that Merlin doesn't seem as hot-headed in the book as he does in the film, but it is very enjoyable. Obviously Robin Hood never showed up in the film. Not to mention Madam Mim is lovely in the film. She's Madam Mim, and they have a wizard's duel, and then she gets ill, whereas in the book she's killed. And she likes to eat children and sacrifice things, and you get cannibals as well. But honestly, I did enjoy both narratives, and the plot gets a 3 out of 10 from me because it starts pretty much the same, ends pretty much the same, and it kind of gets there on its own merit, as it were. Now, obviously, this is my own opinion. If you agree or disagree with anything that I say, please leave it below in the comments. If there's any book to film adaptations you'd like me to do, any book reviews that you'd like me to do, again, leave it below in the comments. And I'm more than happy to do it. As I said, I do have a growing list of books. So if you have recommended me a book to read and you do want it to show up on the channel, it might take a little while to do because I do film a lot of episodes in advance of each other. But thank you so much for your continued support, and remember to always keep it content.